Hampstead LLC. This looks like it might take a while, but so before I do that, we typically start with a prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, which I plan to do, but it's been a tough month in Hampstead. So everybody knows Bush 41 passed away, but then we had a former mayor, the gentleman, the second column down, last one, Odin Kemp. He was 94. He served as a Marine in World War II, worked for the Western Maryland Railroad, and he was the mayor from 1973 to 1979. He served on the council for 23 years. He made a very positive difference in Hampstead in the time that he served, and we're forever grateful for that. So he passed away. And then our chaplain for the police department, Bill Kaiser, passed away suddenly last week at his home. He was the husband of Joanne. He was 77. He served in the United States Navy, and after retiring as a self-employed home improvement contractor, he became our police chaplain for several years and was a substitute teacher in Carroll County school systems. And then this week, two of our public works employees lost their father and grandfather. Mr. Thompson passed away. So in memory of all 4 of those gentlemen, I ask that we rise and have a moment of silence before we do the pledge. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, all persons are reminded the session is being recorded on tape for the preservation of records. You're asked when called upon to give your name, address, and the interest in the matter before the council, which is, as I mentioned, the rezoning request. This is a quasi-judicial hearing based on what we're doing tonight. So the council's sitting here making a decision before we will have the regular council meeting on this rezoning. You can, if we had the agenda in the back, but there's the call to order, which I've done. There's the roll call, which we'll do in a second. Zoning administrator's statement, the applicant's presentation. They will sit here and they will be allowed to call witnesses and go through the reason for the rezoning. Protestants' comments and public comment will follow. Applicant's response thereto, council deliberation, council decision, and then finally adjournment. So that's the order of how we plan to conduct tonight's meeting. I know this can be a contentious issue. We're not the federal government. We have a better example here, so I would ask that everybody is professional and maintains their tone and a pleasant character. We can agree to disagree, but we should do so in a professional manner. So with that, the roll call.
Mayor Nevin.
Here.
Councilwoman Duff. Here. Councilman Renahan.
Here.
Councilman Rourke.
Here.
Councilman Thomas.
Here.
And Councilman Unglesby.
Here.
Next is the zoning administrator's statement.
FRP Hampstead LLC's property is located south and east of Houcksville Road and north and west of Doss Garland Road. The property consists of 2 parcels totaling 118.0055 acres of land, more or less. The property is identified as on tax map 41, grid 14, parcel 735, and on tax map 41, grid 14, parcel 53. The property was obtained by FRP Hampstead LLC, a Maryland limited liability company, by deed dated March 20th, 2008, of Carroll Jacob Leister and Martha Jean Leister, recorded among the land records of Carroll County in Liber 5495, Folio 4, etc. The property is currently within the town limits of Hampstead and is zoned restricted industrial, IR. The east side of the property is bordered by the Hampstead Bypass, and the west side is partially bordered by Houcksville Road. The remainder of the property is bordered by land which is zoned residential. Properties on the other side of Houcksville Road are also zoned residential. When we originally processed the FRP rezoning request in 2016, we followed Town Code Chapter 135, Article 34, and internal procedures. Recently, as we were preparing other documents, we realized that the June 14th, 2016 public hearing was not advertised according to state law requirements. Instead of advertising twice, at least 14 days prior as required, it was only advertised once. So the petition for rezoning was reintroduced at the November 13th council meeting to correct this administrative error. Then it was sent to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review. The Planning and Zoning Commission found that due to the substantial infrastructure and off-site development costs necessary to develop the land under restricted industrial, that zoning is not an appropriate or realistic zoning classification for the property, and that R7500 is the more appropriate zoning classification. The commission found that a rezoning of the FRP Hampstead LLC property would better serve the town, its residents, and its businesses. After rezoning the Florida Rock properties from IR to R7500, the commission feels there's still a substantial amount of IR zone land within town limits to sustain future industrial growth. The subject property is in the priority classification for both water and sewer. In consideration of the Hampstead Community Comprehensive Plan and the character of the surrounding area, the Hampstead Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously at its November 28, 2018 meeting to forward a favorable recommendation to the Hampstead Town Council to rezone the FRP Hampstead LLC properties, Tax Map 41, Grid 14, Parcel 735, and Tax Map 41, Grid 14, Parcel 53, from Restricted Industrial IR to Residential R7500. The petitioner is represented by J. Brooks Leahy, Esquire, of Dunley, Leahy, Curtis, and Beach, LLP, 127 East Main Street, Westminster, Maryland.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, so Brooks, you're up first. I should point out that we have Michelle Ostrander, who's the town's attorney, here tonight as well.
Thank you. I'd like to make a brief introduction. For the record, J. Brooks Leahy, Delaney, Leahy, Curtis, and Brophy, representing FRP Hampstead LLC. The petitioner here requesting a rezoning of the 118-plus acre property from IR, Restricted Industrial, to R7500. The basis is a mistake in the most recent comprehensive zoning that took place back in 2010. Now, you will recall that this matter was submitted in 2016, and at that time, the Planning Commission unanimously agreed that there had been a mistake and that R7500 zoning was appropriate. And this body also in 2016 agreed with that and made the rezoning. And as has been stated, it was determined that the annexation was not properly advertised under Maryland law, so hence we're here again. The request has been refiled and it's been properly advertised, and this body is again asked to consider the same issue. Was there a mistake in 2010 when the industrial zoning was adopted for this property? I note, as before, the Planning Commission has again unanimously agreed that a mistake occurred in 2010, and they have recommended to this body that R75 zoning be applied. So the relevant inquiry tonight concerns whether a mistake was made in 2010 that industrial zoning was appropriate for the property. However, because of a lot of the concerns of people in the audience who have come here, I know the last 3 or 4 months have been involved, even though it is not relevant, we will address some of the site plan issues in order to really go on the record and explain, not only here in public in front of everyone else, but to the mayor and council, that we will comply with all environmental requirements and we will also comply with all traffic. Because what really happens is, should this body agree to the rezoning back to R7500, that's just the beginning. We must come before the Planning Commission and we must show them that everything is appropriate, that traffic is appropriate, that there's no environmental concerns that cause health issues. And we know we have to do that, and we will plan on doing that. So I just wanted to give that kind of little opening statement. And at this point, I'd ask Mr. de Villiers to come forward as a witness. And what I have here is a packet for each member of the council. And that packet contains a statement in support of the mistake. And it also contains a series of exhibits that we will be testifying about. We'll run out in a minute.
Thank you, sir.
And let's see, I think we're okay. I'm going to later give you a copy for the record after we go through it and after we move to have it introduced. So, Mr. de Villiers, if you could have a seat. I think we can share this mic, probably.
Yes, sir.
Would you start by stating your name and your address?
David DeVilliers Jr., 34 Loveton Circle, Suite 200, Sparks, Maryland, 21152.
And what's your connection with FRP Hampstead LLC, the applicant here tonight?
I'm President and Chief Operating Officer of FRP Development Corp., which is the sole member of the LLC.
When did FRP Development first begin working on what was originally called the Hampstead Trade Center property?
I believe it was the summer of 2005.
Okay. And how did you become aware of the opportunity to buy what was then the Leicester property?
We were actually, contacted by the state, actually Carroll County, and I believe we even had some conversations early on with some members of the town of Hampstead.
Okay. Now, becoming aware of this possible purchase, did you develop a concept plan for having an industrial development at this property?
We did. We developed a concept plan.
And is Exhibit 1 in the packet that the mayor and council have? And well, I'm going to share it with you. Is Exhibit this one? Is Exhibit 1 the concept plan for developing this property back long ago as industrial? Is that the concept you came up with?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, were there substantial off-site development improvements that were needed to make the industrial project work?
Yes, there were. I'd start by saying there was a conversion required of the roundabout to be a signalized intersection. Doss Garland Road would have to be developed as a major industrial public road. Water and sewer needed to be brought to the site, including a major pumping station, and a major stream crossing was required.
Now, back when you were developing the concept plan with your engineers and your experts, what was the estimated cost of those off-site infrastructure costs back in 2007?
About $5.3 million.
Now, did you submit this information to the Carroll County Economic Development Authority?
Yes, we did.
And did they subsequently make a grant to fund in full these off-site improvements?
They did.
Okay. Now, again, let's take a look at Exhibit 2. I'll take Exhibit 1 back. You take a quick look at Exhibit 2 and tell me what it is.
Yes, this is it.
And what is that?
It looks like it's the letter for providing the grant.
Okay, so that's the letter from the Carroll County Economic Development, and what's the date of that letter?
Date is February 9th, 2008.
And they basically are saying, we will fund that $5.3 million off-site improvement.
That is correct.
Now, that was important to FRP.
It absolutely was.
And as a result of that, did you then make the step to purchase the property from the Leicesters?
We did. We settled at the end of March in 2008.
What did you pay for the property?
$4.2 million.
Okay. Now, during the 2008 to 2010 time period, while you were working on it, did you think developing the Hampstead Trade Center as industrial property was economically doable?
We did, especially with the help of the $5.3 million grant. We believe the development was certainly feasible, with extensive off-site improvements being covered by the Carroll County.
Now, did there come a time, as you went through the planning in more detail, that you changed your mind about the feasibility of this industrial development being able to happen?
We did. As the plans started to become more detailed and we got more feedback from the county and the planners and the engineers and really started to put together correct and more accurate estimates, the cost of the off-site development skyrocketed. David DeVilliers III will address this in a little bit more detail. Short answer is that the off-site costs went from about $5.3 million to almost a little over $9.2 million, somewhere about in the summer of 2011.
Did you share this information with Carroll County?
We did.
And now I'm going to ask you to take a look at Exhibit 4 in the packet. A little lengthy.
This is a detailed memo that was done by David DeVilliers III to Steve Powell, Denise Beaver, Paige Sunderland, and Isaac Amensch.
And did this show the cost increases that you had discovered as you did more detailed planning?
It did. It talked about what it would take to make the project go forward.
Okay. And for the project to go forward, what would have to happen concerning these off-site improvements?
They would need to be covered by somebody other than the developer.
Now, did you present this to Carroll County?
We did.
And what was Carroll County's response?
And basically the answer was no, and we certainly understood.
So in 2010, or a little after 2010, during this time period, when the property was zoned industrial by the 2010 comprehensive plan, was it in fact economically feasible to develop this property as industrial property?
No, it's no one can spend the kind of money. It was a little over roughly $10 million just to cover off-site infrastructure for 1 million square feet of industrial development in the Carroll County market.
And in addition, was there an issue about the absorption rate of 1 million square feet of industrial space?
Absolutely. Updated marketing information showed that it would take close to 20 years or more to fill out the space. Carrying costs alone could have derailed it.
So does FRP do residential development?
No, we don't. We don't have the in-house expertise as it relates to the residential product, but we have substantial amount of expertise in land development. So we hired and contracted with the gentleman, Ed Gold, I believe you've met and seen him so far, to support our FRP team.
Okay. And as just a brief overview, why is R7500 zoning doable on this property, whereas industrial is not doable?
Well, I think there's three main reasons. One is that relative to residential, access off of Hauksville Road allows you to phase the development, which was something that was virtually impossible when you had the industrial development.
Let me stop you on that just for one point. When you're doing the industrial concept plans with interaction with the town and with the county, were you going to have an outlet on the Hauksville Road for the industrial property?
No.
They were forcing you to use Dos Garland all the way down to the Southern Exchange.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you need, at one other point, in the course of your going through the industrial development, you came to realize, based on a traffic study, which incidentally is Exhibit 3 in the packet, that you would have to do a full signalization of the southern roundabout.
We did. It had to be completely redesigned and a signalization added to it.
Okay. Does that need to be done with an R7500?
No, it does not.
Now, is all the information that we have submitted to the mayor and council that they have in their packet that you've reviewed, is all that information true and accurate to the best of your belief?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Those are the questions I have of Mr. DeVilliers Jr. Thank you.
If you guys at any time have any question, you can direct them to them.
Correct. If any members, I'm sorry.
We're good.
Okay. I'm going to go a little out of the order, and I'm going to bring Mr. Gold up front. Would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, I'm Ed Gold, and I live at 7 Hill Chase Court, Pikesville, Maryland, 21208.
Can't hear you.
Okay. We'll try to speak up. What is your relationship with FRP, the owner of this property?
I've been hired by them to help them on the residential side. We've worked together for a very, very long time.
And what kind of experience do you have in residential development in Maryland?
I've been in the business for, I'm in my third decade. I've probably done somewhere near 10,000 lots throughout the state, all in what I consider to be the greater Baltimore area: Hartford, Carroll, Baltimore, Howard, Anne Arundel, and Baltimore counties.
And who have you done work for during this 30-year period? What different developers or builders have you worked for?
My career started at Ryland. I stayed with them for a little over 10 years. Then I went out on my own during the Depression, and came back in and worked for Beazer for a little less than 5 years, and I went back out on my own about 2 years ago.
Okay. Have you ever worked with FRP before in the past?
I have.
What have you done with them before in the past?
We started to work on the preserves at Windlass Run, which is off the 43 corridor in Baltimore County, and did all the land planning and eventually worked through the approvals.
You're familiar with the Hampstead Trade Center, which is now Hampstead Overlook property that is being discussed at this hearing?
I am.
And have you been asked to examine the feasibility of developing that site as residential?
I have been.
And what kind of development do you foresee at that site?
This is what we consider to be a circle of life community that has multiple different housing types that will afford individuals from young couples, young families, all the way through to empty nesters with the different product lines.
And with our petition is an Exhibit 8, which I believe is an earlier version of a concept plan. I'm going to ask you just to take a quick look at Exhibit 8. Is that the kind of development a while ago you were working with for this site?
Yes, you'll notice that there's, first of all, what I call curvilinear roads. There's very few straight shots on the roads, lots of pocket parks, full of trail system throughout it, and of course it features a very strong amenity package. In a community like this, having a clubhouse and a pool, places for people to gather is very important.
Have you looked at the preliminary cost estimates for doing this type of development at this property?
I have.
And is it feasible and doable?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, is rezoning the property from industrial to R7500 an appropriate designation for this property?
It is.
Now, I'd like you, although this really is not part of the mistake, again, we represented that we're going to talk about some of the site plan issues that people are concerned about. So, Mr. Gold, could you tell people what this most recent concept plan is?
Even though we realize we're here for a mistake, we have been working on it for a couple of years as residential. We've met with the planning board. I don't know how many times we have. We've met with the council. We've met with citizens. We have heard many issues that have been raised. And that is what is the next version of what we believe will be an outstanding Hampstead Overlook plan.
And what feature of this is new and addresses some concerns the community has raised?
The significant concern is that it no longer has a single entrance point. It has a dual entrance point. One of our larger concerns on the dual entrance point was we didn't want it to be a cut-through where people would race through, a community, especially ones catering to families. So we were able to alternate the road network. So you have to come through the roundabout, which is where the amenity package, the pool and clubhouse and sports courts will be. And then you'd have to come off that roundabout. It's a traffic calming device to make people slow down in order to get out of the community off to Dolph Scarlin.
That's all the questions I have of Mr. Gold.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. David 3. Please state your name and address.
David DeVilliers III, 34 Lovedon Circle, Suite 200, Sparks, Maryland, 21152.
And I presume you're related to David Jr., who testified earlier?
Yes, he's my younger brother. No, he is, in
You're
fact,
on
my
your
father.
own.
He is, in fact, my father.
Okay. What's your position at FRP Hampstead LLC and FRP Development?
I am the vice president.
And were you the person previously involved in evaluating, developing, purchasing, and attempting to develop Hampstead Trade Center as an industrial property?
Yes, I was.
Between 2008 and the time the Hampstead plan was finalized by the Planning Commission and the Mayor and Council in 2010, did you believe the development of the industrial facilities was feasible?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, I want to direct your attention to Exhibit 4 in the board's packet, which I think I already had your father talk about, so it might be out in front here. I think that, yeah, that's
Yes.
Exhibit 4. That's a memo you wrote to Mr. Powell and others at the county that related to a June 28, 2011 meeting at the county, correct?
Correct.
What does that extensive memo discuss?
It discussed the evolution of the off-site improvements. It also went through many of the on-site improvements, as well as we went through more updated and current market study surrounding the demographics and the market surrounding the Hampstead Trade Center.
And is that memo in great detail explained to the Carroll County development folks and the people in the county that the costs have gotten much higher than had been anticipated earlier?
Correct, it did.
Can you explain why these costs increased?
There was a number of items. One of the largest items was the signalization of the roundabout. There was also a great scope increase as it related to Dawes-Garland Road. Initially, it was going to be a 2-lane highway that connected to the roundabout. Coming off the roundabout, it transformed into a 6-lane road with a revised intersection onto Phillips Drive to address a lot of the traffic that was going to move through there after the closing of Wolf Hill.
Okay. Were there also some expenses related to stream crossings?
There were. Initially, there was a stream crossing. We thought that we could just drop a pipe into the stream and put a road across, which is what the bypass was constructed as. MDE came back and said, we want bottomless culverts, which is basically a bridge. So we were basically constructing 2 bridges across the stream to get to the property. There was also impacts to the water and sewer. The sewer got extended another 1,000 feet. The size increased from 3 to 4 inches. The water line also had to go underneath the bypass, and because of the depth, there was great concerns that if it ever broke, it would be a major, major impact to the water system here at Hampstead. So that pipe got reinforced, encased in concrete. There were significant structural upgrades. And we also had a lot of on-site wetlands, grading issues. There's a number of items that caused the cost to increase.
What could the Industrial Development Authority do to make this economically possible?
To provide a grant or pay for these off-site costs, which basically increased some $4 million.
And they had originally agreed to do that back when everybody thought it was $5 million.
Correct.
Did you go to them about this and ask them if they could make the appropriate grant?
We did.
And were they able to do so?
They were not.
And did they ultimately send you a letter to that effect, saying that they were very sorry but they could not do that? Here I'm showing you Exhibit 6 and ask you what Exhibit 6 is.
Exhibit 6 is a letter from John Lyburn, head of the economic development at the time, indicating that they are revoking the grant.
And that was after you had face-to-face meetings with them discussing the need for the increased off-site infrastructure contribution.
That is correct.
Okay, and you knew that was coming when you had the...
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Now, in contrast, if the property was rezoned to R75, could it be feasibly developed?
Yes.
And could you explain, I think your father and Mr. Gold did, but would you explain briefly why?
Yes. One of the major reasons this is feasible is we are able to phase the development off of Hauksville Road, meaning we didn't have to mass grade and complete the entire site all at once. There's the ability to phase off Hauksville Road. Doss Garland Road also did not have to be a major industrial highway. And most importantly is the roundabout has capacity for residential, but it did not have capacity for industrial, 1 million square feet of industrial.
And now, over the past several months, questions have been raised in regards to environmental conditions of the property. How are these environmental concerns being handled, and how they've been handled already in the past?
So, FRP relies on the town and the county experts and our expert consultants to address stormwater management, water, sewer, other adequate public facilities. The same process is going to be handled as it relates to the environmental. We rely on the state experts and our expert consultants, and we look to them to tell us how to address these items.
And who is the state, what is the state agency that has expertise for environmental issues?
It's the Maryland Department of the Environment.
And have you entered into a process with the Maryland Department of Environment to make sure this site can be developed as a residential site in a safe and appropriate manner?
We have.
What have you done?
We submitted an application to MDE. We entered into the voluntary cleanup program, VCP. As a part of the voluntary cleanup program, there were a number of environmental items that they wanted additional actions taken so the site would be safe for public health and residential use. That is documented in a response action plan, or RAP. That RAP plan was submitted to MDE. It was approved, and we look to comply with the program, comply with that plan, and see it all the way through until we are able to receive a certificate of completion from MDE certifying that we have followed all the rules, everything that they need, so they can give us a piece of paper that says, you have done what we have asked you, and the site is safe for public health.
Now I want to direct your attention to what is Exhibit 10 in the packet of information that we have provided to the mayor and council. Can you tell us what is Exhibit 10?
Exhibit 10 is an update to the Maryland Department of Environment, specifically the voluntary cleanup program. It addresses where we are as it relates to schedule. It also clarifies several items, and is more or less, something that we are required to do to keep the program up to speed on where we are, and is something that we will continue to do through certificate of completion.
Does this also contain an offer by FRP to MDE to do additional vapor testing over and above what MDE even requires?
It does.
Can you tell the board, the council about that, what that is?
We submitted a work plan to MDE to take 5 additional vapor sampling. When we were looking at all of our data and everything, our consultants indicated that if we entered the program today, you are able to lower the detection limits for vapor gas. We know it's low right now. We don't know how low. We have the ability to figure that out if it's absolutely zero or if there's an extremely low level. So that's what we have submitted to MDE.
It's not required, but it'll be a more fine-tuned test of the vapor, which you will have done and submit to MDE.
Correct.
And if MDE, as a result of that, has any new requirements, additional requirements to your RAP, what will happen?
We will follow whatever requirements and protocols that they mandate.
Now, did you help arrange for MDE to address the Planning Commission on these environmental issues back October 24th?
We did. We had a long discussion at a planning commission hearing, I believe, and a lot of the questions posed were very technical in nature, and we realized that they needed answers, and they needed answers from the experts. MDE is a state agency. We thought that it may be tough for us to get them to a public hearing. We asked the planning commission to help us.
Of Hampstead.
To help us get MDE to the table. And through everyone's efforts, Mark Bank, the toxicologist in Maryland, was here at a planning and commission hearing for the town of Hampstead.
And did Mr. Mann and all the other folks from MDE make it clear that this property could be safely developed as residential property?
There were several members here. Mark Bank, who is the lead toxicologist, said that this site can absolutely be developed, both industrial and residential, and be safe to human health.
Okay. Now, is Exhibit 9 in the packet? Is that the minutes of that October 24th Planning Commission meeting that you just referred to? And, I'll let you. It is. And at this point, I'd like to move all of our packet of exhibits into the record. Let me ask you this, just as I've asked your father. Are all these exhibits and this statement that we have placed in support, is all of that, to the best of your knowledge, information, belief, is all of that accurate?
It is.
So I would ask that the entire packet be moved in.
Have you had testimony about all of these exhibits? Because I don't have notes for 7 and I think 5.
That's kind of why I did the catch-up, but thank you, I will do that. Is,
Or 11. Did we talk about 11? No.
I don't know how.
I think we talked about,
No, we did not.
Let me go through that then. Exhibit 5, is that the site plan for the heavy industrial property that you were hoping to develop at this site?
It is.
Okay, and this shows the 1 million feet of ultimate industrial buildings that would be at that site, is that correct?
Correct.
And it shows this massive Dos Garland Road that goes down, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's 5. 7, yes, Exhibit 7. Now, I think you mentioned that as part of your development of the industrial property, you were required to have a very extensive traffic study done and submitted, correct?
Correct.
And that traffic study is, I believe, Exhibit 4 already been testified to. This Exhibit 7, what is this?
Exhibit 7 is a well-developed concept plan of what it would take to convert the roundabout to a signalized intersection.
So this is what you would have to do if the industrial development went forward in terms of the southern roundabout. Change it from what was in the plan in 2010 for just a roundabout into a full signalization roundabout.
Correct.
Exhibit 11, we talked about the fact that FRP was voluntarily submitting a enhanced vapor testing program to be done soon. In fact, what's the date of this Exhibit 11?
This was submitted to MDE on December 7th, 2018.
And that is from your environmental experts. That's the proposal of this additional vapor testing that you're planning on doing.
Correct. This is the process at which we are going to collect these 5 new samples. And there's a concept plan attached to it that shows where these 5 samples would be taken, all of which goes to MDE. They review it. They tell us if this is good.
And in fact, they could tell you that they want different sites or whatever, and if they did that, you would comply with that.
Correct.
I think at this point.
Which ones are the 5 samples, since there's a lot more than 5 dots on this map?
Right here.
Correct. There
Logo.
is a,
PSV1.
so I can tell you that PSV 1, PSV 2, PSV 3, which is located in between SV 7 and SV 8. PSV 4, which is located in between SV 1 and SV 2.
Got it.
And PSV 5, which is located in between SV 3 and SV 4, are the new vapor samples.
At this point, then, I would again move that the statement in support of petition for zoning map amendment, as well as the 11 exhibits attached thereto, be entered into the record.
Good, Michelle? David, you have any experience with MDE and VCP plans and other subdivision or other projects you've developed?
We do. I will tell you that one of the largest ones is outside the state of Maryland. It's in the District of Columbia. And we have worked with environmental state agencies before.
And how big's the project you're working on in DC?
It is a massive project.
Give me a number, acres.
It's
6 acres in the middle of the District of Columbia. It's 1,100,000 square feet of residential.
So you're going vertical, obviously, way high up. All right.
I mean, that's a multi-million-dollar project.
Okay, that is the testimony that the at this point, that is a presentation that the applicant wishes to make in their initial part of this hearing. Ready to answer. If questions are, people have questions now, we're happy to answer them. But as I understand it, I believe protestants in the public have an opportunity to make comments that they wish to make. Michelle.
May I ask just a question? Mr. Chase, he's still anticipated to be
No,
coming?
we have, we decided for expediency, previously, we were going to bring Mr. Chasen in. He had a conflict, could not get here till 8:30. We determined that Mr. DeVilliers III was able to bring in the information we wanted him, so we do not need that. Okay.
Michelle, do we have to vote to accept this or just enter?
Oh, no, I think it's just entered.
Thank you.
There's no real opposition mechanism here.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may steal one copy from somebody, maybe the mayor, since you don't even vote. I want to give it, oh, you have an extra, I'm not sure that's a copy of it.
You're giving this to Michelle?
I wanted Michelle to have one.
She'll have one.
Set a copy for the records. Thank you.
All right, next step is any protestants or public comment related to what you just heard or in general overall. Now, Ms. Phillips, you've been before us many times.
Yes.
And I wanted to follow up from last month. Your grandfather was the seller of the property.
Yes.
And you brought something to our attention last month, and we wanted to make sure, since we want to close the circle here, that we reached out to EPA as you suggested, and I think Tammy's going to read their response into the record before you get started.
And it's actually their response, MDE forwarded the response that they sent to you, Ms. Phillips. So basically, email from EPA from Jeff Barnett just says, hello, Brittany. I have just gotten off the phone with Jim Carroll, MDE, who had just spoken with Michael Toriano, if I'm saying it correctly, our TBA manager, who spoke in detail about the former farm/residential development property and agreed that it is not eligible for a TBA, which is a targeted brownfield assessment. I was not aware or did not understand that the former farm/Florida Rock property was already entered into the State Voluntary Cleanup Program, BCB, or P, excuse me, being as the property is already in the state VCP, Brownsfield program. EPA does not will not duplicate the process. I apologize for not sufficiently understanding the details of the property and explaining this option for you to explore that it is not, in fact, possible. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me. Sincerely yours, Jeff Barnett, Brownsfield and EWDJT, which stands for Environmental Workforce Development and Job Training Officer. So that was the email that was sent to Ms. Phillips.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the last presentation that I did to the meeting. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. So, and that's when I presented that we were supposed to work together in potentially finding a third party to also perform soil vapor intrusion testing, which we are in the process of doing that.
Where do you stand in regard to getting them up?
I'm in communication with the man. I've got a couple irons in the fire with that, and I'm. It's more complicated than just choosing a company. It's looking at the nature of the contamination and the previous contamination that we have found, and looking at what would be the best testing sites as well. So I've got a couple irons in the fire there, and I'm speaking with a couple different companies with that. So yeah, I meant to reach out to you yesterday, but okay.
Right. And then the other thing we talked about was you and I having a meeting.
Yes.
That didn't happen because you had a work conflict. So
Yes. I had a work conflict, and then I brought my agenda with me the last meeting, and then we never really got a chance to set that up. So, okay.
Floor's yours.
Okay. Brittany from Brittany Lane. In the last few meetings, I've stood up here and shared our findings with the PCE and TCE contamination on this property. I haven't expanded on yet what we have found recently in regards to the arsenic contamination. Through my recent visit to the Maryland Department of the Environment, I found a rough copy of the 2006 RAP, which is the Response Action Plan, that was submitted by the developer. As I mentioned in my last presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, I found an edit that was made by the MDE on the front of this packet that was a little disturbing. On a yellow sticky note on the front of this pack, it states, samples within the stream buffer area exceed residential and recreational for arsenic. Samples are surface and subsurface, and the RAP does not propose to address this area. After reading the 2017 edited RAP, or RAP, is that what it's called, from front to back and compiling maps, I was able to locate the arsenic levels that were in question. And I'll actually give you the map of the property and the positive testing sites for the arsenic. See that? You can see there. Some of the pen marks. Hi there. You can see my pen marks. My pen marks there.
Thank you.
So you can see on this map, I've taken a pen to mark the contaminated areas within the stream and the stream buffer areas. These tests were taken at 0 to 1 feet, 1 to 3 feet, and 3 to 5 feet. Arsenic tested out of acceptable range for recreational and residential levels at all of these depths. The disturbing thing about this report and this map is that, one, because this is labeled as the stream and stream buffer area, they do not plan to remediate this. If you notice on the legend, the dotted area is labeled as proposed high-frequency recreational use parcel. I'd like to point out that the proposed recreational area is located directly over the arsenic contamination, which is not planned to be remediated. If you rezone this property as residential, how will you protect the families from this contamination? What will keep the children from playing in and around these streams? And will there be a playground located close to this? These questions have not really been answered for us. My family and I have spent months and many sleepless nights researching the contamination on this property, adjacent properties, what these chemicals are capable of, and how they will affect future inhabitants of this land. We have combed through the Maryland Department of the Environment reports and found inconsistencies with what the representatives presented to us a few meetings ago. We have presented to you all of the facts that we have uncovered, yet it seems to be unheard. We have put an immense amount of trust in these experts, but it's human nature to question instead of just listening to what we're told. None of us have an environmental degree, but we do have common sense. And these numbers aren't consistent with what we are being told, and that's a fact. And now, peppered through town hall meeting minutes, Facebook, and the Carroll County Times, these facts are all now public. So years down the road, when issues arise, this information will be easily accessible to future residents. In my opinion, we have done our best to inform the town council and the residents of Hampstead the levels of the contamination of this property and our concerns of building family homes here. It's not like there is a prize for all the work that we have done on this. At the end of the day, it's about doing the right thing. As our governing body of the town of Hampstead, the issue now lies in your hands. I do not understand the urgency of pushing this rezoning through without further examination of this property to make sure that it is safe for families. If the contamination surfaces and gets residents sick, I think it is important to understand the ramifications on the town of Hampstead and its residents. Who will be held responsible? This is another question that has yet to be answered. Where do we want to be 10 or 20 years from now? Once you have established a vision or a destination, you work backwards in order to find the steps necessary to turn that vision into a reality. When you build a house, you don't step on the property and blindly swing a hammer. You start with the end in mind, with a blueprint. I respectfully ask the town council give serious consideration in rezoning and allowing a development of this magnitude to be built on questionably contaminated land in a town that doesn't have a high school, to be put on water and sewage that seems to be already close to capacity, and not to mention the strain that this would put on our emergency personnel. Then go on to approve another 275 homes to be added to the Hampstead area off of Upper Beckleyville Road. That's over 500 homes that we will be adding to our little town. We conducted limited polls on various Facebook pages where 95% of the votes were firmly opposed to the rezoning of this particular property. The fact that every meeting, regardless of the issue, regarding this issue, has been packed with concerned citizens should be enough. The majority of the residents of Hampstead that we speak to do not want this property to be rezoned. We feel as if we are fighting a losing war with those that have been elected to represent us. When will you hear your town? Thank you.
Thank you.
Introduce it formally into the file.
Oh, sure,
Since you don't have an
absolutely.
attorney, I'm gonna ask you. Is there any objection?
No objection.
Do you have a spare copy of it as marked, or I'll just get one from them?
Do you guys
Why don't you
always
get
make
one
a
of
copy
them?
of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get one.
Yeah, okay.
One. No, just come up one at a time.
Line here, you guys go, it's fine.
My name's Don Kritzer of Wolf Hill. You guys keep talking about this new development and the roads and the bypass. We're stuck behind that thing. That traffic's so bad in that circle, we get stuck in there. The other day a truck flipped over. I couldn't get in my house. Now you're gonna add all this traffic running through to Phillips Drive. That's my entrance to my home. The traffic is it's over capacity. Some days I sit there, I can't get out into the circle to go to work. And then, like I said, we have a problem. The road shut down. How's the cops gonna get back there? There's one road. Where's the other one at?
The revised plan shows the second road.
What, Dodge Garland?
Talking about Wolf Hill.
Right. Well,
There's one road in there, or as of today.
If there's something that happens on the roundabout, right?
Yes.
There is now a second way in to that Wolf Hill subdivision.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So,
If it's on there, I lived there 25 years, there's one road in there.
Okay.
The other thing is the actual traffic that's being dumped on 30. I work at Camp Frederick, and it is backed up from Camp Frederick to the bypass every day. You come out there sometime, I turn out the gate, I am in traffic right there. So now you're going to add all these other cars on that same road trying to get to 795. It's not feasible. I mean, maybe you guys don't work that way, but I go that way every day, 3-4 times a day, and it's not good. So, and you guys are going to do what you want to do anyway, but still.
Thank you.
I'm Melissa Rectanis. I'm 3856 Fortress Court. I do have a couple statements. Sir, they were saying that MDE has approved this site for building. They have not. I was at that last meeting. They said they would not approve the site until it was remediated. So I just wanted to say that on record that was incorrect, inaccurate. And has the town received a notice from MDE that the property has been cleared, like the remediations, all the contaminants are gone? Have you received a report from MDE?
Well, they haven't started. We've received the report that they're in the voluntary cleanup program.
But not that it's been cleared.
They haven't started it.
They're not approved to do anything
Correct.
at this point.
Right.
So, I mean, when we went to the public works section of the county meeting for this, there was only so many homes that could be developed on our water and our sewer. Well, if there's two sites that the council is deciding upon, the one on Upper Beckersville Road or this contaminated site, I don't know. I would push through the one on Upper Beckersville Road that doesn't have contaminants first, and utilize your public works that direction first before pushing through something that may not be in the county or the town's best interest. So if I had to pick between one or the other, I'd definitely pick an uncontaminated site first.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think that was all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Short guy always comes last. Actually, I had a few questions because I think we were going to ask questions of the testimony.
Name and address.
Correct? Is that?
You need to give your name and address.
My name is Carl Mock. I live at 411 Hauksville Road.
Thank you.
Now, I had a couple questions. Brooks, you referred to a mistake. I think you had referred to a mistake. But is there, in fact, not two mistakes with that property? It was two mistakes, right? Can you clarify the mistake for us?
There are two mistakes.
Yes, sir.
One mistake is that everyone, FRP, the Town Planning Commission, the Mayor and Council, Carroll County Economic Development, made the assumption in 2007, 8, 9, and 10, and 2010 is the key time, that the property could feasibly and rationally and economically be developed as industrial property. That proved to be incorrect. So that's one mistake. A second mistake is that in the town's adopted planning master plan of 2010, there were multiple references to how the new roundabout with the turnarounds was going to be a big help for traffic flow. And in fact, it has certainly improved traffic flow. But there was no understanding that the industrial development would require there to be a full signalization of the southern roundabout. That was just not known by anybody in 2000, and not known by the mayor and council and the planning commission in 2010.
All I wanted to do was clarify that point because it plays into the second entrance that we're talking about here. When I look through the notes of this, I guess I have a couple points. Basically, I didn't see the second entrance because sitting back in the back of the room, you sure don't have too much visibility of this thing. But is there not still the environmental issue that you have to get that second entrance? There are two bridges that still need to be built over those environmental lands, correct?
No, not at this time. That's not what's shown on this plan.
That main, okay, can for the record, can everybody understand where you're tying into 30? Could you do that for the benefit of the people in the audience? Or Doss Garland, or how you're going to get there? You don't need to ford any of the environmental areas that were identified?
Here is one stream crossing, just one as opposed to the two on the industrial.
Okay.
This is the connection to Doss Garland Road.
Okay, so there's only one crossing that you have to deal with, because one of the issues was you had to build bridges instead of culverts, correct? Okay, so you will have to bridge that or whatever, but you take the environmental issue, at least for the plan, out of play.
I feel as though we've reduced that environmental issue by half.
Okay. I have another question here, and I guess
Ladies and gentlemen, hey, we've got a gentleman up here asking questions. Let's be respectful.
I asked this
Thank you.
question at the Planning and Zoning meeting. I'm not sure I got really a clear answer, but at maybe the town council or any of you gentlemen can answer this. All the references here seem to say that we think R7500 is an ideal zoning. And I guess I want to know why R7500, not R20, not R40. What is the determinant in your mind that makes that R75 such a valuable, rational way to go? Can you explain that? Anybody?
Go ahead.
For the record, we need this gentleman's full name and address.
Yes, my name is Sean Davis. I'm a principal with Morris Ritchie Associates. My business address is 1414 Key Highway, Baltimore, Maryland, 21230. The reason why this is perfectly situated for R7500 as opposed to R20000 or anything higher than R20000 is because from a land use perspective, what you're always trying to do as a land use planner on the public side and on the private side is transition density. And what we're doing is we're transitioning density from the bypass road, the highway, over to less dense development. This property was zoned for industrial, the most intense use. And from a residential standpoint, I personally believe that it is absolutely 100% sound land use planning to transition density from a highway to lower density residential with the R7500.
Question for you, sir.
Yes.
You're planning development as a planned unit development, correct?
I'm sorry?
Planning to develop this as a planned unit development?
That's correct.
With multifamily and with single family?
With townhomes and single family. The overall density of this, however, is a little over 2 units per acre, 2 units per gross acre. There's 256 homes shown on that plan on 118 acres. The R7500 allows 6 units, I believe, per acre. We're only developing this at 2 units per acre, a little over 2 units per acre.
Planned unit development allows 4, and it wouldn't matter whether it was R10000 or R7500. Right. You could still develop it as a planned unit development.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's helpful unless you happen to be living next to where it's all dense. And that's where a lot of us live. So thank you for the explanation. I want to put out one other thing. This is, I think it's identified as priority funding area. Can you explain what a priority funding area is? Can anybody in the town council, will you take the moment to address what that is?
Trying to remember the exact year. As part of the state's smart growth measures over the last 20 years, they went through and identified and had local jurisdictions identify priority funding areas that had to meet certain criteria. I believe it's a gross density of 3.5 homes per acre. Well, let's put it this way. Everything inside both beltways in the state of Maryland is a priority funding area. Every municipality is a priority funding area. Every undeveloped property that is zoned for 3.5 units per acre or greater is a priority funding area. The purpose of the priority funding area was to establish rules and regulations for state spending. So if I came in as a county and asked for a school in an area that was not in a priority funding area, the state says, no, we're not going to give you the money for the school because it's not in one of our priority funding areas. Move it to a priority funding area and you're in. All existing schools and everything were grandfathered. So if the school existed before that, that was great. If the county still wanted to go ahead and build that school, they could. They just couldn't ask for state money. The same thing with sewer and water upgrades. It was only if they were asking for state money. Hampstead, as a municipality in the state of Maryland, is automatically a priority funding area.
Okay. And that explains it very well. And just for the members in attendance here, if you Google priority funding areas, you will see that it is administered by the Department of Housing and Community Development. It's also run by the Maryland Mortgage Department. And the concern that has been expressed by some of the people in this audience, and I know it was dismissed by many on the board and in town council, we are concerned about the type of housing we have that's coming into this area. We do not want to see some housing that is, let's just say it, we don't want to make this North Reicherstown. We do not want to make this North Reisterstown. And we are concerned, and we are legitimately concerned, if you study some of this stuff, what safeguards do we have that we're not putting in a community that, quite frankly, is an affordable housing in the very worst sense? And that is a concern that we're going to ask. And I know you take a deep breath, Mayor, and I respect that. I respect that. But please respect the people here.
And I will, and I'll give you an explanation.
I appreciate that.
All right. So you're concerned about Section 8. It's basically what it comes down
I did
to.
not say that,
and
but
affordable housing. That's what you're
that's
using
it.
all the code words, and several. I've sat in the planning and zoning meetings, and several people have used the words.
Okay.
Point blank. And I hope it's nothing more than being misinformed.
Okay.
But these are not low-income housing projects. These are townhouses with garage that starting price, high 290s, you put on the amenities, you're in your 3s. The single families are going to be high in 300s, low 400s once you put on some amenities. That in no way, shape, or form is affordable. I will tell you also, the Hampstead has a very good mix, a very strong mix of housing types, and that many people who've lived here for years have started in townhouses, say Roberts Fields, North Carroll Farms, Small Crossings. Every single subdivision that's been approved in this town for 30 years, predating me, predating Wayne, predating most of the people in this room, there's been a mix of housing that's been done. And that housing has served us well. It gives us young people a chance to continue to stay here and buy their first house. It gives people who are moving from Parkville to here to buy their starter house, establish their families, and establish the community. And as far as looking at what it's done for our town, you're sitting in the safest town in Maryland. Year after year, one of the top people, the stats prove it. You can make any comments you want, but the stats prove it. You're sitting in one of the safest towns. And to the extent that we've had problems, there's been a few rental houses, mostly on Main Street, that we've had issues. We have a rental housing license. And if that house becomes a chronic problem related to any problem with livability or enforcement on the police department side, we contact the landlord and we tell them we're going to pull that license, and it's amazing how quickly that problem disappears. This town's been proactive, and I would say that we're proud of the mix that we have, and it has served our community very well over the years. And to stand here and say that's going to be affordable housing with the way that subdivision's being built doesn't know justice and is not anywhere close to the truth.
I don't think I made that statement. I was concerned about
Maybe you didn't,
it being
but I've heard it,
that.
and you've heard the snickering behind you.
And I have. And all I can tell you is my concern is the 35 acres that's not going to be developed right away. And to make sure that that is going to be safeguarded as well, so we don't end up with condominiums and everything else.
It will not be. This is
That's
a
what we're
rezoning
concerned
hearing.
about.
This is a rezoning hearing, so we cannot engage in contract zoning saying you will do X, Y, and Z with this rezoning. It's a rezoning hearing only. It gets zoned for what it gets zoned. As it goes through the process, concept, preliminary, and final, the Planning and Zoning Commission has every right to say, this is what's going to go there. This is the maximum density that goes here. Here's the setback we're comfortable with. And they've already addressed one of the comments that you've had and driven home repeatedly was we need 2 access points.
Absolutely.
So these guys have listened to everybody in this room. We've had now 4 or 5 public hearings. We've answered every single question. We've brought in the chief toxicologist from the state. They've been here, bent over backwards. David III has met with the family who sold the property to them to try to overcome whatever concerns they have. So I think we've bent over backward, and we've been totally transparent, no rush involved at all. And I'm sorry if this comes off as strong, but at some point, there's got to be some reason involved here. And the affordable piece of this is just not true.
And I would like to say one thing to the town council that's here, to Ed and the other people. The second entrance was big to us, and I appreciate you listening. But we're concerned about these other aspects. Thank you.
Welcome.
Andrea Henderson, 1755 Manchester Road and 3100 Hoffman Mill Road. It's very transparent. You are right, Mayor. I don't know you from Adam, but I am looking forward to re-elections in May. Because if this council votes through this development, you're doing a disservice to this community. Environmentally, this shouldn't even be a question. There should be no development, residential, here. None. There's another development that has no contaminated land. This has been an issue with this land for how many years? 30, 40? It said in our lifetime that the contamination would never be cleaned up. So why is this even being discussed? Oh, that's right, transparency. It's called this. And we've watched the show, and the lawyer's been hired, been paid very well to put on the nice circus act here, and you guys are playing it. It's embarrassing. You are doing a disservice if this residential community goes through. It should be a write-off for a multi-million-dollar company. And for this community, which you say that you uphold and care about, you shouldn't even be here. This community is here to tell you that they don't want it. So when are you going to hear and listen to your residents before you're reelected? Because you're not going to be reelected. You're on your way out. It's time for a change.
I have a question for you. Excuse me. I have a question for you. You talk about this other development on Huxville Road, 257 houses?
Upper Beckleyville?
Upper
I don't know that much about it. I just heard that it's going in. This is not smart growth.
Let me ask my question.
This is not smart growth.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
How do you know that property isn't contaminated? Because I heard the guy from MDE sit right here and tell us that every single property in Maryland's got arsenic on it. I moved.
That's
I bought a brand new
arsenic.
house.
I think
bought a
arsenic is
brand
just
new-
the surface
Excuse
of this development.
I'm talking now.
Okay.
I bought a house in Roberts Field. When I bought my house in Roberts Field, my developer did not tell me that there could be arsenic in my ground. The developer did not tell me that Black & Decker was a Superfund site. Okay, 1991. Okay, so.
Is that when you moved here, sir?
Yep.
Well, I've been here for my whole entire life at 47.
I'm trying to finish my point. So you don't know whether that property out at Huxville Road has contaminants or not, but if it does, it's going to be tested. These guys voluntarily did the testing. I heard the guy from MDE say that he would live there and that it would take an awful lot of ingestion of dirt from that property to affect him, and it'd probably take 100 years. So I don't think the property's as contaminated as everybody's putting on, and I find it hard for you to come in here and make a blanket statement.
It's a
that the
very
257 houses
very
are going up there-
transparent statement.
Excuse me, I'm still talking. That the houses up there on Huxville Road or Lower Beckleysville Road are not going to be on the same type soil. No testing's been done.
No, Black & Decker was never on that land. They didn't contaminate that land. Black &
The
Decker
arsenic
contaminated the Leicester
contamination
farm.
is not-
It is known fact.
Arsenic contamination is not from Black & Decker. The NDE guy stood
I'm not
right
talking
here.
about
I told
arsenic,
you.
sir.
Right, you're talking about the groundwater.
I'm talking
We're
about
not using the groundwater.
other contaminants.
We're not using the ground. I'm very aware of what's at Black & Decker now. I've been on the council and been part of this for 25 years. I'm very aware of what's there. And we're not using the groundwater for anything. So talking about groundwater contamination with respect to developing a housing project where we're not using the water is not an issue. The water we have in Hampstead is very safe. It's tested every quarter. The water that's going to service this development is being pumped from wells that are on the north end of town, far away from Black & Decker. So I don't mean to be argumentative with you,
The ground
but
is still going to
making-
be disturbed. The water is going to be contaminated. It is going to, all you're stirring it up. You are seriously, really.
I think the groundwater
Can I ask
table
you-
is
can I
far
ask you a
below
question?
where the housing
Can I
development
ask you a
is.
question? What would you propose that we do with that property? What do you think should be there? Just asking.
Honestly?
No, I'm asking her, please.
Do you honestly,
asking
you
her.
really want to know?
I just
I
wanna
think
know
that
what
this
you-
multi-million company should write it off and let it be.
And what do we do
Because
with
it's
it?
really, do you really want to
just
take
sits there.
that chance for your community that you so much care about? Do you really want to take that chance of really
Okay, but let me ask,
bringing
let me ask
all
you a
this
question.
up
Let me ask you a
of
question,
40
please.
years of Black
Please.
& Decker's contamination?
The property now is growing corn on it and something else. What are we doing? Where's that corn going? It's
I don't
being
know.
ingested by something.
Do you know?
Well,
do you
something's
know?
ingesting it. Okay.
I know, I
If
wouldn't
it's
wanna
safe to
eat
grow
anything
corn
off
on it,
that
I don't
land.
see a problem putting houses on it. Or what would you propose go there? I'm just asking. You're just saying leave it with nothing.
I think it should
I'm
be
just
left.
asking.
I think it should be left alone.
We have to build every square inch.
I didn't say build. I said what should we put on it? That's all I asked.
Thank you.
Nothing.
It's,
All right.
I feel sorry for the company that invested their money into it, but it's not smart growth. It's just taking that chance that you guys shouldn't take on a lot of people. I mean, families coming in here, you don't know what that's going to do. Seriously, do you really want that? Do you really want to sleep on that every night not knowing? Do you want to take that chance?
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, I have a question about procedure. I do have an email from MDE about some of the testing that they've done recently on it. Can I introduce it into record, or is there a time later?
We can. Why don't we wait until the response from the applicant? That way we have chunks of information kept together.
Thank you.
Okay?
Hey guys, Zach Tomlin, 4813 Hillock Lane. I am the current treasurer of Robertsfield. I was elected earlier this year. I don't know, it was like 150 votes. It was something crazy. So when you guys talk about the youth and the young people that live here, and I am that. I am the embodiment of that. That's why I was overwhelmingly elected there, and that's why I'm speaking now. But basically, I just have some questions. I'm not here to rip anybody apart. And to your credit, Councilman, I'm not really sure what to do with that property, but I'm trying to look at these zoning maps, and I don't really have. If anybody could tell me which map. Now I have the 2010 master plan. That's the blueprint, but which map are we going off of, Tammy?
Can I see what you have? You have 2010. We amended it.
Is there a point to this, Zach?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to think the last time.
Because the whole, when you talk about zoning,
We need to catch you. We need to catch you on the mic because we're being recorded, and they're giving me
Let me just say one thing with the last comprehensive plan, which is exactly what it means. The comprehensive update was 2010. And if anything, you typically do that like every 10 years.
Okay.
So for anything that would be happening in between, it's considered an amendment. And it's a living document. So for example, different things have been amended. We added a growth area.
Gotcha.
If anybody wants to annex into town, they have to be in a growth area first.
Okay.
So as far as the zoning is concerned, I can't just look at it and tell you everything,
one?
but it looks like the most current, but I'd have to look through all my notes to see.
So basically, the reason, the point of this is because when you're doing city planning or town planning or anything like that, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I have a local business in Westminster. I'm doing pretty well over there. I sit on economic development for Magic in Westminster. I try to be as involved as I can. I've offered to help the town multiple times. No one's ever gotten back to me, but I love serving the community. But so I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, so what are we trying to do here? What is our vision? So when you look at the town, I feel like we need to go to the community first and say, hey, what do you guys want to see? Because that's what, right? We are the community. So I'm looking at this, and it doesn't really make much sense to me as an entrepreneur. And I'm like, how are we going to benefit from these residents? These additional homes, and we're talking about $300,000, right? I make good money. I can't afford a $300,000 home. I'm a single father. I got 2 kids. We got rising medical.
Zach, I realize there are different income points for every single person, and this is the target market that they are choosing to hit should they gain approval to do so.
Right. So, who's gonna?
The town
Let me start with my
businesses
questions.
will benefit, and the community will benefit.
Well,
as you can disagree with me, but every single subdivision we brought into town has been a benefit to the town.
Okay, cool. But how are we going to compete with Westminster with the infrastructure? Like, we have no schools. North Carroll closed.
We have plenty of schools, and I've had a lot of people tell me that it'll never open as a school. I also had a lot of people tell me a bypass would never be built.
I mean, I work with BOE members, so I mean, I know it's not going to be grandfathered in. It's going to cost a fortune. There have been North Carroll.
You don't know that. You don't. I mean, have you seen an engineering report from it? No.
I've been talking to Board of Education members that vote on that kind of stuff, and it's just not going to happen. I mean,
So you're taking the Board of Ed's point and closing the school. Got it.
Oh, is that how you're going to play it?
That's how you're
Is that how you're going to play it?
Zach, for 2019.
Come on.
Let's go.
That's how you're going to play it?
Come on.
That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous, and I think that's slow.
Listen, this is a rezoning, Zach, this is a rezoning debate, so let's
Yeah,
have
so,
a conversation
okay.
related
Well,
to
we
the
can
property.
debate later.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
I look forward to it.
I look very forward to it. So anyway, so we build this. Who's going to be responsible for the upkeep and amenities?
I'm sorry?
The upkeep, the amenities, the tennis courts.
HOA.
The HOA, great. So what are those fees going to be?
That's to be determined by the HOA.
So, I mean, is it going to be affordable?
That's to be determined by the HOA and the market. It is a market economy.
Right, it is a market economy, but like the reason people move up here is because the housing is less expensive than it is closer to Westminster.
I would not say that is the case. I think you have a different. I'm not here to debate market with you. Westminster, Hampstead, Hunt Valley, access points, and where people commute to. You being from Westminster, but
I'm from Hampstead. I live in Hampstead. I'm from Carroll County. I'm fourth generation Carroll County.
But now we're talking about rezoning. So the market will determine. Obviously, these gentlemen think that it will work.
Well, let's hope so. If that's where you want to go with it, but honestly, I'm up here talking. I got a bunch of questions that, like I said, I wasn't trying to be rude or ignorant or anything like that. But it's very obvious that, you're not going to be receptive to it. So I
will answer every question that you have.
It's just not worth it.
Okay. I mean,
Zach, Zach?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
One of the only reasons that you were elected to the HOA board was because you and Missy walked around through the neighborhood.
They campaigned?
With your names already checked off on the ballot.
Yeah, we campaigned, but I'm very popular
wait.
over there.
Wait.
Am I popular, guys?
Yeah. Wait. Your names were already checked off on the ballots. And
Okay.
you just handed the ballots to residents.
No, we campaigned.
Missy came to my door.
Yes, and I know I've been blackballed by you, Marlene. I know I've been blackballed by you, and that's why I am not able to help the town.
all right, we're getting off topic. We're about
I'm
rezoning
done.
here. We'll do all the rest later on. Thank you.
Virginia Jefferson, 3797 Castle Drive, alias Ginger. You all know me as that. I know a lot of people in the town council. I respect all of you, okay? In my heart of heart, I have to believe that you are people that want the best for Hampstead. My concerns are the infrastructure. Can we deal with this infrastructure of all these homes? And school's just one part of it, okay? The school buses on the roads is another part of it. The police is another part of it. The fire department is another part of it. Coming out of here is going to be 500 cars at least, every day. And everybody knows it's a nightmare on 30. Everybody knows that. So to add those extra roads, my question to you really is anybody on the board questioning this? Is anybody have concerns about this, or is it just the community that we're having concerns? Because it sounds like, and I don't mean offense, it sounds like you've already made a decision.
As the plan goes through concept, preliminary, and final, you have to review all the levels of service for all the various services that are under consideration.
I understand that,
Okay.
but I'm not hearing the concern.
Roads, schools, okay, everything.
Yeah, but I'm not hearing the concerns. That's what I'm saying. I think these are legitimate concerns the community has, and I'm not hearing that any of you have those concerns also.
We absolutely share them, and for the time that I've been here, we've worked very hard to increase and improve the infrastructure of Hampstead, and we've done exactly that.
I have faith in this town.
So do we.
Okay, and that's why you see these people here. They love this town. I want you to love it as much. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, and we do.
Good evening. I'm Randy Wilkerson, 3787 Castle Drive. I live right across the street from this proposed site. Thank you, gentlemen, for bringing all the information you brought tonight. It's a lot of information that I was not aware of, being 6 different meetings that we've had now with this. What I see tonight so far is you've added a new road, correct? Going out the other end as well, not just on Hawks Hill Road. Correct. That's going to help dissipate the 500 cars that we're talking about, correct? Okay. No one in this room knew that that happened until tonight. So it doesn't give us the opportunity to address those issues, okay? That's one thing. The other thing is, I think everyone keeps saying that we made a mistake. We made a mistake. We made a mistake. The Planning Commission made a mistake. We don't look at it as a mistake. We look at it as a happy accident, as an opportunity for you to do the right thing and leave it industrial. You, Mr. Mayor, shame on you for saying to this lady or anybody in this room, you've talked to us 5 times like you did us a favor. That is your job.
No, it is not the way that.
That is your job. Excuse me, I'm talking this time. Excuse me. Okay? You said it came across like that, whether you intended it or not. It came across like that. I just want to inform you of one thing. All of you on this panel, I don't know all of you individually. You work for this town, not for this company. That's all I have to say.
Hi, I'm Shirley Kritzer, 4209 Wolf Court. And I want to piggyback on the lady prior to me, all of the concerns, all of the infrastructures. Why can't we propose to put this decision tonight on hold until we can hear of all of the concerns being addressed first? I mean, the schools, the infrastructure, the traffic, you know, what are we going to be doing with it? So why does this decision need to be made tonight?
I guess there's a level of service that comes with each of the infrastructure pieces of this project, and that's what happens when you go through the planning process. This is the reason.
You're gonna make a decision tonight when we have not had the opportunity to hear how you are going to actually, remedy all of these concerns.
The decision tonight is to rezone a property from industrial, to affirm a rezoning of a property from industrial to residential.
I understand that.
Then it has to go through. It has to go through concept, has to go through preliminary, has to go through final, where all those infrastructure requirements are needed. If they don't meet them, they got to remedy them in order to develop and move 1 square inch of dirt.
I know, but it sounds like you're putting the cart before the horse. I mean, why rezone it to residential at this point when we don't have all those answers properly addressed?
Well, it's a process.
Yeah, I understand it's okay, so it was a process that you went through for the actual construction, for the development of it, non-residential. So you went through that process, and the process failed because of quote-unquote cost, and now you want to flip it to residential, and we're going to turn around and we're going to go through that whole process again. It's going to boil down to dollars. Where is all of those dollars coming from? For the roads, for the schools, everything that we need. The additional, we have 2 grocery stores here, plus Walmart. It's ridiculous as far as the shopping here. We're just so congested already. So where is all of the additional funds coming from to give us everything that we need to support another 250 houses?
I would say that the businesses would disagree with you, and they would welcome more rooftops. And the
Why
infrastructure.
is Roberts Field empty? I mean, I have been out here for about 25 years now. Half of Roberts Field is undeveloped. We could certainly use that for a lot of additional, things that we need. But, the funding to support that for the houses here, none of that is here,
Okay.
So as part of the process the Planning Commission goes through, they look at the adequate facilities, as I mentioned, for road, water, and sewer. This developer, in order to get the water, is going to have to pay a fee to the town for the water that they're going to get. That goes into our infrastructure to support that. Same way with roads. If they're going to be paying for the road to go to the out Doss Garland, if there's any requirements for upgrades to Hucksville Road or to signalization once the traffic study's done, they'll be required to make those upgrades, and that'll be part of what they have to do. In addition, there's impact fees that are put on the developer for every house that he develops, where he has to pay for money into the water fund, to the police, to Parks and Rec. So we do have money that comes in from a development to support the infrastructure that you're talking about. And anything that exceeds the requirements, they'll have to address it and make it whole. So it is taken care of during the Planning and Zoning Commission's review process of a development. It's how every development in Hampstead was done. When I got on in '91, adequate public facilities was just a couple of lines on a piece of paper. And Chris and I got onto the council. Together, we went out and changed the laws to put in sound numbers for the requirements for schools, for roads, for water and sewer. So, you know, we've done a lot to ensure that any development that's done in Hampstead is done properly and done efficiently and done so that it's not a burden to the town.
But we haven't seen that. I mean, we're talking about redeveloping this land. We're talking about putting 250 houses, which clearly nobody here wants. But then where is all of the additions to that? I just don't see any talk or anything at all to develop everything to support the 250 houses on the property, which we really don't want.
One part of this process is when this land came up and they petitioned to have it changed from industrial to residential. Their petition also goes to all the Carroll County bureaus, the Department of Planning, the Department of Utilities, Engineering, Land and Resource Management, and they are all asked to look at the land, to petition, to rezone, and give feedback on it. We have the feedback on it. Basically, the main thing was the traffic study and the second road. That was their main concern, and as you can see, it's now been done. So they do look at these things, and we look at these things before you just jump in and try and rezone something.
Well, personally, Dawes Garland, that's not an option. That's going to dump out right at Wolf Hill, which is right at the traffic circle. I'd like to know how many accidents have been there since that traffic circle was put. That's all I have to say.
Can we have, is there any, before we get to
Again.
seconds, is there anybody else who wants to address us the first time? I think the gentleman in the back is waiting.
But I want to talk to you real quick about that. You were talking about the county commissioners, and I was at that meeting. And it wasn't just
Not the commissioners,
at the
heads of
commissioner's
bureaus.
office. It was at the county office meeting, the county office building.
It was a technical
in regards
review.
to, and that's where I met you. They had a lot of issues in regards to the fire safety and the cul-de-sacs being too tight that even fire trucks couldn't safely get into it. So they didn't really approve it. There was a lot of issues that the conceptual plan had
Correct.
that they wouldn't
They
pass.
will be addressed. I was just talking about the issues that came up
Okay,
during
and I have
the
another
rezoning.
question. Environmentally, when it comes to putting a bridge over, I have like the East Branch River going through my farm. I had special accommodations that had to be made. What exactly is Florida Rock going to do in regards to, putting a bridge over the stream?
Whatever's required by the law.
Well, the USDA's office was pretty picky with me and don't want my horses in the stream. I pretty much don't want children going in that stream that's contaminated. So what is Florida Rock going to do to keep the children from going in and playing in that stream?
Okay.
Hey, Tom Bento of Hauxville Road. Just a few things. I was just making some notes. And I have a feeling you guys, based on your body language, have already decided. I hope you haven't, and I hope you listen to the people. And, maybe an idea is, put out a vote to the town. But as far as the development, listening, it's only my second meeting here, but reading through some of this stuff and listening, it seems like this was the plan all along. I noticed some inconsistencies with Florida Rock property, Mr. Warbucks, and they'd said they had no experience with residential, but they have a 6-acre, million-plus, whatever, property going up in D.C. And also Mr. Gold has worked with them over the years on a residential project. So to me, it seems sketchy, and I hope that the council hasn't benefited at all from this plan. I don't know if that's legal or not, but I'm wondering if they bought it as industrial.
Benefited how?
Yeah.
Benefited how?
I'm not in politics, so I don't know how you...
Excuse me, benefited how?
I was just about to answer you. So benefited by, I don't know, maybe he's taking you out to dinner, on vacation.
You're making an accusation?
I'm asking you. And
you're making an accusation.
I'm asking you.
I find that offensive, but
All right, well,
we look out for
Very much so.
Hey,
like
we
I
look
said,
out for the
it's my second town council meeting.
We look
I've
out
only
for
seen
the
it on Parks and
long-term
Rec.
best interest of the town. That's what we've said for 20-some years.
But I see these faces here who I only know a few of them, but it doesn't sound like you're looking out for the town.
Okay.
Anyway, so those were some of the things I saw, and I'm hoping I'm
I
wrong.
didn't catch your name or your
Oh,
street.
Tom Bento of Hauksville Road?
Hauksville Road.
Hauksville, yes.
In the town?
I don't know where the town ends.
He's not in town. Okay.
No, I'm not a townie.
So you're not
Sorry.
a town resident?
No, but I live on Hauksville Road where this,
In the town of Hampstead?
no, he said I'm not.
I'm asking.
Yeah, I guess not. I don't know where the town ends. I can't vote for you. So,
I didn't ask that. I just
no, I know, but that's what you're thinking. I think this is a very belligerent town council. These are the people you represent, not me, obviously, because I don't live in the town. I'm speaking. Can you, go ahead, go ahead.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go.
You don't live in the town, but
No.
you're just asked to have the town vote for something.
Correct.
How many people actually live in the town? Very interesting.
Well, what's...
all I'm going to
I
say.
went to the Carroll County meeting, and this is what Carroll County told me.
Exactly.
I said I live down the road from Hauksville, and the Carroll County meeting, and Sharon, you were there. Carroll County said, not my problem. And Hampstead annexed it.
Yeah.
Gotta remember that.
So-
You may live outside of Hampstead, right on Hauksville Road, but we support Hampstead.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do have to utilize all the businesses in Hampstead. There's nothing on Hauksville Road, although there will be a big development soon. So despite the fact I'm not in the town, I consider myself part of the town. You know, and I do all my shopping here. My kids go to school here. You know, I pay taxes, I assume, you know. Anyway, so that was one of the things. I think it's also, excuse me, short-sighted to not worry about the groundwater. I'm not concerned about the arsenic. I understand. I read the papers, the MDE. I think it's short-sighted not to worry about groundwater, that we're going to use wells from north of the county, because eventually maybe they will need to use the groundwater. I'm wondering also about the effects on Hauksville Road, since I live there. Even though it's not in the town, I have to take that road all the time.
And I take it too.
You do? Good.
I
Do you
do
live in the
right.
town?
But I live off of Hauksville Road.
You live in the town, though?
Obviously, I wouldn't be sitting
I'm
there.
just making sure.
But I just want to make sure that you understood that other people use Hauksville Road as well. And
No, so it's not just me. I recognize that fact.
Right.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is, I
funny.
no, I recognize that.
It's funny. But
That's good. That's good. I'm glad that you don't care what the people think.
I didn't say that.
Anyway, and I also think that just because Florida Rock Property made a poor business decision, or what could have been a very smart business decision, by investing in industrial, and rather than eating the cost like one of the other people had said, that the town is just going to bend over and do what they say. So I think that's just a poor decision, and I don't think the constituents, who clearly are not me, care for this. So maybe do take a vote with your town, with the people who live inside the town, and maybe care about what the people are saying. Have you had any issues before where the town has shown up like this?
Yes.
Really? And did you listen to them?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Good. So maybe you'll listen this time.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Do you have any response? Sure.
We got one more gentleman that wants to speak.
How you doing?
Yes,
Mike
sir.
Good, 3889 Fortress Court.
I'm sorry, sir, I missed your name.
Hold on one second.
Well, he's still talking about something else, not.
Your name, sir? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Oh, Mike Good.
Mike Good.
Yes. Evidently, you know, I understand you want to do what's best for the town of Hampstead. And I actually moved up here because it was less crowded than Westminster. And now I feel like I wish I hadn't moved up here. I do try to support the businesses in this area. I do still go back to Westminster and do things there at times. But I keep hearing everyone say they don't want it, they don't want it, they don't want it. And it's just a handful of people who will actually vote when your constituents are telling you no, and you may say yes. I've also seen other things that, and I believe me, when I worked, all I did was eat, sleep, and work. So now that I'm retired, I'm hearing more things. Like, they never needed to close North Carroll. They built the new high school. They could have built on to North Carroll for half the price, and it still wouldn't have been overcrowded like down here, and they could have still had more people there. And I'm thinking, God, what a waste of money. Going back years and years, the forefathers of Carroll County sold Liberty Dam to Baltimore City. Now we're paying for the water rights. So when you have people telling you they don't want it, then when you ask them, well, eliminate the townhouses and maybe do more upscale homes and put more amenities in it and make your money up differently that way. Fewer houses, more money, more amenities. That brings also higher people with disposable incomes into your town. So if you do vote for it, then maybe less houses, more at a higher cost, more amenities, more disposable income that is spent in the town. They make your money, you get your way. You already have townhouse communities and apartment communities and things. Maybe that's not the way to go. But when I see these people saying there could be contamination, it could be carcinogens there, and they're telling you no, but you're thinking yes, I don't get that. I don't know. I from what I heard from the person from the Maryland, state of Maryland, and when I heard from these gentlemen, if they build it and they leave, they're done. They're off the hook. The guy from the state of Maryland said, if I remember correctly, if you get more than 1% of people who come down with cancer, then that's unacceptable. So if you've got 250, say 500, maybe 600 people. So if you get more than 600 people who come down with cancer because of they're living in that area, then to me, doesn't that put it back on the town of Hampstead for liability and lawsuits? So that's something you may not think of now, but you may not be in office. By the time it's built, by the time people, and by the time it happens, you all may be out of your offices and retired and someplace else. But if they're telling you no and they're telling you it's a possibility, maybe it's better to go commercial and put it on a slab where you're not destroying the ground level. I mean, I really hope that you're just not saying, let's bring in tax dollars and revenue to the town. I really hope you think this through and give an honest and conscientious vote when you vote. That's all.
Thank you.
I just have some argument and address some of the concerns raised by people here tonight. We've presented compelling evidence on the issue that's for consideration tonight, and that issue is, was there a mistake made in 2010 when the master plan was adopted and zoned this property IR? Everyone in the time period between 2005 and 2010 thought industrial zoning made sense for this property. FRP believed it. Carroll County Economic Development believed it. The Planning Commission believed it. The Mayor and Council believed it when they adopted the 2010 plan. FRP believed it so much that they paid the Leister family over $4 million for this property to develop it industrially. The key was Carroll County Economic Development paying for the off-site. That's the only thing that made it work. And they came up with $5.3 million, and we all thought that would work. It didn't. Detailed engineering, increased plans, a traffic study that suddenly required the full signalization meant that the cost doubled. Economic development could no longer fund that. So development of this property with industrial became just impossible. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two concerned the roundabout. The 2010 master plan is full of references to the roundabout, how it's hoped that it's going to work. No one knew, you didn't know, the Planning Commission didn't know, that because of the industrial zone, that roundabout would end up having full signalization, and it would not do the job that was thought. So We're aware of the concerns everyone has expressed tonight. This is not being rushed through. This has been worked on for over 2 years.
We weren't involved that 2 years.
I can't help that. It's not being rushed through. This was already rezoned 2.5 years ago, and in the two.
Afforded to be able to
Yes, you were.
address that because it wasn't posted correctly. You should listen to
Continue with your.
It wasn't posted correctly. Or
Gentlemen,
we would not be
let's.
having this conversation.
All right,
gentlemen, it's his floor.
Okay. The point is that this developer has been completely straight with what they're doing. They voluntarily went to MDE. They voluntarily submitted to the RAP program. That RAP program was approved. Whatever you saw on the file earlier with the sticky, that's fine. I'm sure that was there. But this RAP program was fully approved, and we have the approval. We submitted that before. Now, the way the RAP will work, just so everyone knows, is that we still go through the full development plan with the Planning Commission. The whole thing, concept plan, preliminary plan, final plan. We respond to every possible issue of legitimate issues, stormwater management, streets, everything. Traffic, we have to deal with traffic. We'll have to have traffic studies. We'll have to be able to prove that they can be done. And the Planning Commission will hold our feet to the fire on that. Only after the Planning Commission approves a final plan do we start the RAP, because the RAP's based on the concept plan. And if it changes, if during the process the road realignment changes, recreational areas change, whatever changes, we have to resubmit the RAP to MDE, which we will do, and MDE will look at it, and they may make us do additional testing or they may not. We don't know, but that's one thing we have to do. And all that's going to be done, it's all guaranteed. Second, Doscalin Road, we've represented that the concept plan and the plans going forward will address that issue. So the sole issue in front of the council is the mistake, and is a mistake sufficient to support the rezoning? I think the evidence is compelling it is. I know the people in the audience have their concerns about the details. Those details will take us 18 months or more in submittals and hearings in front of the Planning Commission, and we will need to solve any legitimate issues the Planning Commission comes up. And that is something that will definitely happen, and that's the process of how this unfolds. So we would ask you to consider the issue tonight about was there a mistake and does it justify the rezoning, and I think it's clear that it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Leahy, one question that has nothing to do with the rezoning. Just, you talked about the RAP plan. If anything changed in the concept plan, you would have to resubmit the RAP.
Absolutely.
Does that hold the same for the preliminary plan and the final plan, correct?
Right. It wouldn't be done until we got to the final plan. So if you made a couple tweaks in the preliminary plan, we made those, then we got to the final plan and there was the same tweaks or whatever. It's only when we get to the final plan that we then go back to MDE, say this is what the town has approved.
Correct.
Do we have to do anything more or different? And they may say, oh yeah, you changed the line erodement, the road alignment, so we want you to do these additional tests.
Gotcha.
Ed might want to add something.
Fortunately, I have a lot of experience with these plans, all right? This will probably be my 9th, all right? I just completed one in Owings Mills, all right? So after all the things that Brooks talked about, all right, only then will the state permit us with a permit to actually do the RAP plan, okay? And they will monitor what we do with the RAP plan, okay? And at the completion of that RAP plan, we need a piece of paper called a COC, all right? Without that certificate of completion, that we followed everything that they mandated that we do, we can't start to put in any infrastructure and we can't build any houses. So we have an approved RAP. We now have to go through all of these plans that we've talked about, get all of the comments. Then we actually have to physically construct the RAP. After we physically construct the RAP, we will ask for a COC from the state. They are the only ones that can grant it. The town can't. All right? With that certificate of completion, we then can start the development. All right?
Understood. Thank you. We'll move into the,
Can I just make a statement?
Again, it's Shirley Kritzer. The only statement that I have, I know all you are here to vote one way or the other, but the fact is, I don't care about any of it. We, your constituents, we don't want it. We don't want it residential. We don't want it built out, period. That's it.
thank you. It's been made apparent.
I hope so. Yep.
Council,
I had one other thing, Michelle.
Now would be
Yes, because I do have something that I just received today, so I haven't even forwarded to council. During the October 24th Planning and Zoning meeting, people could express concerns, especially residents of Castle Farms, about their wells. MDE was at the meeting and offered free testing of the wells. I received the email today with the testing, and I just want to read it into the record. The email came from Barbara Brox, which is the MDE project manager for this property, and it's the results from the residential well sampling conducted by MDE. And it just says, "Hi Tammy, after the zoning meeting held on October 24th, 2018, and at the request of a few homeowners, MDE personnel collected water samples from residential wells located along Fortress Court, Devonshire Drive, Almore Court, and Hauxville Road. Based primarily on when MDE was contacted by the individual homeowner, this residential well sampling occurred on November 1st, 2018, and December 6th and 7th, 2018. The lab results for each well did not report any compounds above the method detection limit, including PCE and TCE, which are contaminants of concern associated with prior activities at Black & Decker. I have provided an electronic copy of the individual well results to each homeowner that requested we sample their well. For the town's record, here are 2 PDFs with the lab data for all the residential wells that were sampled in November and December 2018. Thank you, and of course she signs the email. But it was for
15, I think.
now 15 wells, and there was no detect of PCE, TCE, or, well, I can't even pronounce the long list of contaminants that they tested for the wells in that area.
At this point.
all right, thank you. So council deliberation, does anybody want to make a statement? Nope. Before we vote? Is there a motion?
Making a motion to approve the rezoning of the property.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Property is rezoned. We're going to do a 5-minute adjournment and do the regular town council meeting.
Do you have to make a motion to adjourn the public hearing? You have to make a motion to adjourn the public hearing? Okay. Oh, thank you.
All right, with the easel, my gift to the town.
Aw.
And we'll see you on the 19th.
Thank you. You can have your easel back on the 19th.
Okay, see you.
Clearly not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So this will, I think, be a quick council meeting because other than some reports, there is nothing on the agenda. So we'll call the regular meeting of the mayor and town council to order. We've already had the opening prayer, pledge of allegiance. We know everybody's present. A motion to approve the council minute meetings from November 13th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thanks. Tammy, your report, please.
The Main Street Revitalization Project, the 17th partnering meeting was canceled due to the snow, but town staff does meet with the state highway project manager and the C.J. Miller superintendent every Monday morning. C.J. Miller is continuing to install the rest of the regular sidewalk on the southbound side to Northwoods Trail. Due to the temperatures this time of year, the pervious sidewalk will not be installed in this section until spring, so asphalt has been installed in the meantime. BG&E supplied electric to the lampposts from Lower Beckleyville to Ralph Avenue. However, there's an issue causing every other lamppost on the southbound side not to operate. Traffic Systems has inspected the issue and was told they'd be repairing it shortly, but Councilman Renahan said they're lit. So they're lit tonight. And BG is engineering the infrastructure to be able to light the lamppost from Ralph Avenue to Northwoods Trail, because that's on a different equipment box, a different circuit. The foundations for the remaining lampposts in section from Ralph Avenue to the Northwoods Trail are being poured this week. C.G. Miller has chosen to wait until the landscaping's planted in the spring before the remaining lampposts in that area will be installed. The concern is these posts may be damaged during the planting. So the lampposts from Ralph Avenue to Northwoods Trail on the southbound lane won't be lit until spring. Paving crews have finished the permanent patch on the southbound lane in section 1. BG&E is currently installing the high-pressure gas line in section 2, which is from Lower Beckleyville north to 482, and they've started their work above 482 in front of We Care Best. Stormwater work is also occurring in section 2. No crews will be working from December 22nd, Saturday, December 22nd to Christmas Day, or from Saturday, December 29th to New Year's Day. During the winter months, C.J. Miller plans to continue focusing on the stormwater infrastructure with the installation of the large stormwater pipe from Houck Avenue to Shiloh Avenue. I attended a meeting with the Industrial Development Authority, IDA, Carroll County Economic Development, Carroll County Public Utilities, and CLSI to discuss the building of a sewer pump station, which this doesn't add capacity, it just services that area, and stormwater management infrastructure on their industrial land north of Fuchs. IDA already received approval from our Planning and Zoning Commission to create an entrance road and install a water line onto the property. IDA plans to build this infrastructure so they can make this land more marketable. Small Business Saturday, Hampstead businesses participated in the passport program again this year. There were 53 completed passports submitted from around the county where participants had made 8 purchases at 8 different businesses. Of these passports, 20 winners were chosen to receive $50 gift cards that could be used at any participating businesses. And I was told many of the winners made purchases at Hampstead businesses. So the hope is that that brought more people in. The first Hallmark in Hampstead event was a success. That was by the Hampstead Merchants Association. 11 businesses participated and saw about 20 to 40 people in their store. The 12th location was the Farmers Market, which was a bonus stop to acquire an extra raffle ticket. The 11 participating businesses donated a $25 gift card, and they were raffled off at the end of the day. The winners were published on the Hampstead Merchants Association Facebook page. Just to let you know, I attended the Town Managers Luncheon in New Windsor on November 14th. It was the new manager's first luncheon, and we were all able to attend, because typically between vacation schedules and just meetings, that was the first time we could all get together at the same time. And the main topic covered the streetscape projects. Request for bids. On November 20th, the town released a request for bids on the Panther Drive Water Tower repainting project. The town held a mandatory pre-bid meeting at Town Hall on Tuesday, December 4th. We had 6 vendors and 3 paint supply companies attend the meeting. The deadline for questions is tomorrow, and answers will be provided to all potential bidders on Friday, December 14th. The bids will be submitted and opened on Thursday, December 20th, and the award will be made at the January 8th council meeting.
Thank you. Marlene.
Okay, Farmers Market report. The Christmas market was held on Friday, November 30th, and Saturday, December 1st at St. John's Church on Main Street. Friday night was very successful with 13 summer market vendors and 3 nonprofits attending. 5 of the vendors were first-time Christmas market participants, and they were very excited with the turnout. We did see a slight decline in Saturday's customer attendance compared to last year, quite possibly as a result of the numerous similar Christmas markets which were being held throughout the area. St. John Church was a very gracious host again this year. Their youth group did an amazing job of preparing and serving food on Friday evening and during the day on Saturday, and we truly appreciated their support. So now planning continues for our 10th year celebration, which begins June 1, 2019. And that is this month's and the last year report.
Thank you. Wayne?
The Hampstead train station was happy just to work with the farmers market to do the Christmas farmers market again this year. We had a train garden. It was very well received by the citizens, my first attempt. I will do better next year. We are raffling off a Polar Express train set. I have raffle tickets here for anybody who's interested. They're $1 a piece, 6 for $5. The drawing is going to be on December 21st, just in time for the big day. And we had our annual meeting on the 6th of this month, And we had election of officers, Wayne Thomas, President, Danny Lee, Vice President, Janice Hanson, Bill Paul, Charles Simpson, and Matthew Stickle were all elected to the board. And then for the Tree Commission planted several trees last month. One of the trees we planted was through the Community Champions Program from Constellation and Exelon Company. They offer a program where they will put up money for community projects. We planted a tree near the playgrounds at Panther Park, and they're giving us a reimbursement of $250 for the money we spent. So I believe that card will be coming to the town of Hampstead. It'll come as a gift card.
Oh, good.
Good.
That's all I have.
Jim.
Okay, Planning and Zoning Commission of Hampstead met on Wednesday, November 28, 2018. First item on the local agenda was a request by Raina Glover to install a 25-foot square parking pad in the rear of 1124/26 South Main Street. Ms. Glover stated that there was the remnants of an old parking pad there, and it was all broken up and overgrown. She was just going to put a new one in its place, and the commission approved the request for the new parking pad. In his county review, Price Wagner informed us that the proposed text amendments for the commercial and industrial sections of the county code had been passed on to the commissioners for approval. Planning Department had also asked the commissioners at that time to approve a proposal for comprehensive rezoning for the commercial and industrial districts at this time also. Also, the Carroll County Water and Sewage Master Plan is being updated with the hopes of a possible adoption by the Planning Commission of the county in mid-February 2019. And the last thing on the county report was that the bicycle and pedestrian plan is nearly finished and will hopefully be approved in early 2019 also. Once it is approved, it will be sent out to all the municipalities so they can look it over for possible use in their own master plans. The only other thing I'd like to mention is this month, December, Planning and Zoning meeting, normally held the fourth Wednesday of the month, is being held on the third Wednesday of the month, so it doesn't interfere with the holidays. So Planning and Zoning Commission will meet this month, December the 19th at 7 p.m., not on the 26th. It's on the 19th this month.
I just want to make a clarification based on the allegation that was made at the hearing, that card for $250 is for the Tree Commission to buy trees with, not for me personally.
Joe?
I have nothing, and I'm extremely poor.
Dave?
Just real quick, I just want to let people know that I've been participating the past month with the Santa House and with the Shop at the Cop, which I'm sure the chief's going to go into that, so I'm not going to talk about that, but I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to do that. We did have another MML meeting for the summer conference, which I'll have some more information next month about that.
Okay.
November 2018 average water usage was 330,000 gallons per day. December 2018 average water usage so far has been 336,000 gallons per day. Rainfall total for November 2018 was 7.2 inches. Rainfall total so far for December 2018 is 0.2 of an inch. That's it.
Thanks. Chief Snyder.
During the month of November, with reference to our continuing traffic safety efforts, we issued 143 citations and warnings. We investigated 8 crashes with absolutely no crashes reported at the 42 circle.
Oh my God.
Specific.
Just a second.
They can't hear you, and you're on TV. I know it's your first. I don't think that mic's on. Is it on?
Oh.
No, I turned it off.
Okay, how's that? I'll speak louder, I'm sorry. I apologize. With reference to specific traffic enforcement areas, problems we have, Northwoods Trail and Boxwood Drive, we spent some time down there, resulted in 18 citations and warnings issued for a series of violations. With reference to our community involvement, we did 311 patrol checks. That includes businesses in specific areas as well as schools. With reference to serious crime, we handled 9 thefts, 3 domestic assaults, 2 drug possessions, and 5 DUIs. 13 people were taken into custody this month with reference to domestic assaults, DUIs, possession of drugs, and various traffic offenses. We also conducted a joint drug operation with the Manchester Police Department. We were able to take one individual into custody for drug distribution. Several of his distribution networks, even though he resides in Manchester, it was being sold here in Hampstead. We concluded that, and that was a nice job. With reference to community policing, Clint Thorne helped out with the Hampstead Elementary School second grade visit here to Town Hall. He assisted Kevin and Tammy and everybody else. It was a great day. I attended a rally at the Spring Garden Elementary School, the PEP rally, back on the 14th. And I also spent a morning with the preschoolers up at the We Care Best daycare on the 14th. I probably learned more from them than they did for me. And anybody that has young children, it's been a couple of years, I've forgotten. That was exhausting. It was a hard morning, I got to be honest with you. But the big thing with reference to our community policing, this was, I guess, the culmination of our year's Shop with the Cop. Clint Thornton is our lead guy on that. There are so many people that, I could spend as much time as we did on the last meeting thanking each and everybody that participated and helped out. Everybody from Santa to the town staff that helped us out wrapping gifts. We had people from the community came and helped us with everything from gifts. The business owners are fantastic. There's a whole lot of people that go. Even though it is a shop with a cop, I kind of look at it, and it truly is a community thing. And I enjoyed it. It was my first time, and I had an opportunity to actually shop with the mayor and a 13-year-old girl. I don't know if we were the best choices for that.
That was a treat.
And I did have to. I had to basically reel the mayor in there a little bit. There was a lot of, I think, impulse buying that was going on. We had a budget we had to deal with. I'd like to add that we had Matt Fogel, one of our cops. He graduated from Commercial and Residential Crime Prevention School, which was kind of a big deal. He's now certified to provide assessments of both residents as well as commercial properties relative to, crime assessment, how you can make yourself less of a potential victim for potential crime. And the last thing I'd like to mention, I kind of go off script here a little bit. At the beginning of the first meeting, the mayor mentioned the passing of our police chaplain, Bill Kaiser. And for anyone who doesn't really understand what the police chaplain function is, it's a volunteer position with the police department. Bill had specialized training in counseling and basically dealing with a lot of the things that we encounter on a daily basis, whether it is family turmoil, grief, things such as that. And it's nice to have that sort of that person, that resource, that extra tool in your toolbox on those days when you have to do things that are kind of difficult. A lot of what we do in our job is things where we deal with people that are not at their best. We deal with the human experience, and we do it with human beings. And it's important to understand that, because on the other end of that, another resource, another service that the chaplain provides for you is there are times as a police officer, there's a lot of things you see that the public doesn't necessarily have an opportunity to see. And there are times when perhaps you carry too many scenes, too many recollections, too many visions around in your head, and it's necessary for your health to sort of unload some of that. And the chaplain provided you sort of an opportunity in a safe, secure setting where some of our people were able to take advantage of that. And he was very good with that, and we appreciate that. And I just wanted to take a minute and make sure everybody understood that not only was he a sort of part of our team, and he helped with everything from Shop with a Cop. He passed away suddenly last Thursday. He was supposed to be my date at Catherine's cause. It was a little bit of a surprise. But by extension, it was a service that he volunteered and provided to the community at large. So I just wanted to take a minute and acknowledge that, it's sort of a loss for the police department, but at the same time publicly, make sure he was recognized and thank him for not only his service to the police department, but to the community at large. That's all.
Thank you. Well stated.
Yes, sir.
My report, other than the piggyback on what Chief said about Shop with a Cop, that was a great experience. It is every single year to watch these kids light up. And then Santa Claus was a very outgoing and engaging Santa Claus. And the kids lit up when he was there, and I wonder who it was. We had the new commissioners come in. We had the new Board of Education come in. There was an inauguration luncheon that I went to. So hopefully some of the tenor and the county departments and then the Board of Ed changes a little bit with the new people that come onto those boards. I'm hopeful. We had a planning and zoning meeting where there was a public hearing related to basically what we just did earlier tonight. We also had a Robertsfield community meeting that we did to talk about every issue there is related to crime or anything else. And then this Thursday night, we're going to do a Carroll County Maryland Municipal League dinner up in Manchester with the new couple of the new commissioners, and the MML presents their legislative initiative to the delegation who's supposed to be in attendance. So hopefully it'll be a useful evening as well. So that's it for me. There is no unfinished business. There's no new business. There's no ordinances or anything else. Are there public comments? Is there anything else? Mr. Harrell, find a mic. Mr. Mayor. Find a mic, because they got to hear you on TV, bud.
Thanks, Kevin.
I thought my mouth was loud enough. Mr. Mayor, town council members, and the town manager, the manager of our maintenance department and chief of police. I was very disgusted to hear the comments tonight. I don't take sides in this because, number one, I don't know that much about what's going on. But it's embarrassing to me to hear you people being called crooks, working for under the table. Whatever was said was all wrong. You do a great job. You do it for, I know, a lot of money's in your pockets, big salaries. That's supposed to be a jest, but anyway, I attend most of the meetings. I'm not in town, but I've known the folks around here for a lot of years, and I see nothing but honesty, compassion, work for the town, contrary to what they said, and even accusing you guys, you people, you ladies, of being for the North Carroll School being closed. I want to tell you, there's a lot of people out here appreciate the work you do, and I can assure you, probably 5 people out of this audience tonight never attend a meeting. I wanted to speak up. I was raising my hand about halfway, but I didn't know if I would get shot or not. But anyway, that's my statement to all you folks.
Thank you, Doug. You picked the right venue to talk about it. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Rich Zajkowski. I'm the new president of the Hampstead Volunteer Fire Company. I just want to introduce myself.
Welcome to the Crucible. We look forward to working with you, and good luck with you. Good luck with it.
With you too.
Yep.
Very nice.
Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Merry Christmas, one and all.
Ho, ho, ho.
Well, Miss Sharon.
I would figure information.
A lot. I'm looking forward to